People always talk to me about when I was young, when I was running up and down the buildings getting the pigeons for all these drug dealers. I mean, these guys were bad people. They wanted to kill me. They were throwing bricks at me. I thought I was in a nightmare. I didn't know if this was reality or if this was the truth. That's why I was with that ironrealmmedia was around back then. Because I didn't know what was truth. So now I listen to ironrealmmedia all the time. I'm walking around the earth and I'm thinking to myself, yes, guess what? This earth is flat indeed.
Good morning. We talked the whole night through. Good morning to you. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
What is dark matter?
Okay, we don't know.
That's great. That's why it's called dark.
It's exactly.
Reputable information comes from random people on the internet. Cami thinks internet, the earth is flat. It's like school. You're dead.
Dark matter is something we do not know. We believe that dark matter is there, but we have never detected it. Well, what I'm afraid of course, is that there is no dark matter out there. So what? There is no dark matter out there. We need to think really hard.
It's Friday.
Happy Friday, my friend.
It's Friday, my dudes.
Yeah, it's Friday, my dudes. TGIF. And it's a Friday for sure. Walter woke up with a bit of a headache, so we are sans Walter this morning. And I'm not entirely sure where the hell Zack is. I've not heard hide nor hair from him. He's usually here waiting on me. So I don't know. But I'm not here alone. I'm not here by myself. I am joined by Unkuleleku Duma. How you doing, Duma?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Oh, better than I deserve.
Yeah, you like saying that.
Well, it's the truth.
So, brother, I was looking at the news. Your morning, my afternoon. And this was published 6 minutes ago in the New York Times. 6 prosecutors quit over the push to investigate ICE shooting victim's widow. And a couple of other news agencies are reporting on more or less the same thing. What's your take on that? Why would they resign?
I'm not sure. This is the first I'm hearing of it. But if I were to just take a stab in the dark, I'm going to have to take 2 stabs because I can see it going 2 ways. One, they're going to investigate the wife just because it's going to make their life more difficult because fuck them. Or 2, she could be heard encouraging the woman that got shot to go. So there could be charges in regards to that and an investigation into bringing charges in regards to her encouraging her to try to run over the ICE agent with her car. But that's about the only 2 off the top of my head that I can come up with. How about you, Nuka? What you think?
So, there's obviously a push from somebody higher up to investigate that family because they want to defend the ICE agent and his actions. But what I took away from it, I haven't read the article in full yet. I was still reading. But what I took away from it is I thought, America should be full of patriots. And I'm sensing from what I've seen from social media, from the people from there that are posting, is that they're very apathetic towards people who are there illegally. And I can't seem to understand why, because I would think that there are a strain on the system itself because they're not documented. And I'm finding that a lot of people are very apathetic towards that, and they're not interested in securing their borders, at least the ones that are posting. Maybe others feel differently and they don't want to post because, of how it might look being racist or something. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the things that we're having a real big issue with, especially over there on X, and I think it's not just X, I'm sure it's Telegram and Discord and a lot of those others, where a lot of times you are not actually interacting with someone who is from America, though they may claim that. A lot of these are just foreign actors on a VPN at best. I think X has tried to crack down on that by showing everybody where you're actually posting from. I don't know.
But what do you get out of that though? Because it's not like America is not full of people from different places, but they are there illegally. They went through the legal route. It's an opportunity. It's there for people to take.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never understand why you want to defend somebody who's entered your country illegally, breaking the laws of that country, while you as a citizen are supposed to follow that law.
Because people are stupid. Essentially. I think they glom on to talking points that make them feel good, and then they can repeat it. Like there's no real good reason not to enforce border policy. None. Every person that says that we shouldn't have any borders and they should be completely open and people should just be able to come willy-nilly as they please to live or not live in whatever country they choose will also lock their door at night when they get home. Will also be offended if somebody were to steal their car. Like, they understand the concept of private property, but only when it refers to their private property. In so much as that you could have property at all. You can have public property, but that's in the public trust for the use of all Americans. So people that say, well, we just want all these illegals here, I would tend to attribute to just pure idiocy. And there's probably a small percentage that's got a negative outlook, trying to accelerate the downfall of America by just flooding it with illegal immigrants and literally becoming a drain on the system. We can see it happening in Minnesota now with all the child care. And that's, I'm sure, it's not like Minnesota is only one, and that's all. I know there are First Amendment auditors that are now checking up on daycares and verifying that child counts and occupancies are what are being claimed, and trying to figure out how a daycare can make $1.5 million a year. I don't know. So I think there are people out there that would be willing to just turn this over to a socialist, communist, anything but a republic, democratically elected leaders. And so they want all those people there. They want them to come across the border in huge mass numbers. That's why they didn't want Trump to build the wall the first time. I bet you now it would probably be pretty popular. Because people are stupid and they're just willing to glom on to whatever talking point they like. Oh yeah, it's stolen land. How can you be an illegal on stolen land? And stupid shit like that. But that's just what I think.
tough country you're in.
In some ways, in other ways, it's pretty fucking soft. But what are you gonna do?
Another thing I've been meaning to ask you guys, and I always forget it when I'm on here. You guys have things like Lyft, right? We only have Uber and a local company called Bolt for ride shares and things like that of a sort. So you guys have, I think, about 4 or 5 that people use. How has the cab industry, if it still exists, how has the cab industry sort of weathered that in America when everybody's using these apps instead of taking a cab like they used to?
I'm sure they took a hit. And those rideshare services are pretty popular out like where I live. Yeah, maybe a little further in, a little closer to the city, a little more suburban than I am. I'm more rural. But we've got them. But I think in the suburbs, it's real easy because you don't really have taxi cabs just driving around looking for a fare. I know the cab industry was anticipating taking a huge hit. Like they tried to ban them from airports and all sorts of stuff because they don't require the sort of licensing and commissions that are required to become a taxi cab driver. So I know they're not real fond, but when you're in the city, the convenience of having cabs that are just, innumerable. I don't think you can get away with a taxi cab service, even with a rideshare. Because even in a rideshare, you've got to call ahead and wait, make sure you get the right one, make sure he's not some kind of creep or she's not some sort of creep. When you can just walk out to the sidewalk, whistle, throw your hand up and have a cab pull over, you hop right in and get to where you're going. So I'm sure they took a hit. I just don't think it was going to be a death blow to the cab industry. I don't think.
So you're saying if you live in a big city, cabs are still operational and
yes,
they just going on with life?
Probably with less business than before because there are still the ride shares, and if you're anticipating a ride and calling ahead's not going to be an issue, or if you know the driver or what the fuck ever. I mean, there will always, I think, be cabs in the city, but in the suburbs, they're just so expensive because you got to pay them to drive out there to pick you up and then pay them to take you where you need to go. So they're just expensive for the suburbs, which makes the rideshare services so much better. But again, when you're in the city, the convenience, I just think, is going to be the deciding factor between an Uber or the cab right there in front of you.
Well, our cab industry, not that it was big to begin with, even in the city, but it's non-existent now. Because number one, it was expensive just to go from point A to point B in a short distance. So they'd still charge you quite a lot of money. And then when Uber came around and then all the others followed, they just couldn't make any money and it's out of business. We still have taxis. We have things we call minibus taxis where they seat 15 people. But it's, I want to say it's just an organized sort of transport system, but not really because they don't pay tax. But wherever you live, if you live in a suburb, wherever you are, there is a taxi association. They drive around minibus taxis and they'll go around your suburb, pick up people, take them to town or the CBD or whatever, and then at some point bring them back. They operate like buses, basically. Those guys still exist, and they'll forever exist because they use violence and intimidation. I mean, if you drive an Uber or anything like that, and you get into certain areas, and they see you, they will stop your car. They'll surround your car. They will evacuate you from the car, and if you decide to fight or anything, they'll kick your ass. But they're going to take your car and go park it somewhere, something. They won't steal it, but they'll get in and they'll go and park it somewhere, and they'll tell you you're not allowed in this area because this area is mainly operated by these minibus taxis. And then tell you to fuck off and go find your car.
Y'all got some weird definitions of carjacking out there. Like, what qualifies as stealing someone's car if not pulling them out of it, beating them up, and driving off with it? Like, if that doesn't qualify as stealing somebody's car, what the fuck does?
You're not keeping it. They go and park it somewhere far, and they leave the keys inside.
Oh, God.
Find it.
I wish we had that sort of rule here in the States, where if you were to steal somebody's shit and then just sell it for cash, like, well, I didn't steal it because I didn't keep it. I didn't hang on to it. It's not like I wanted it for myself. I got rid of it immediately. You know, like the cab services do in South Africa. They'll just beat you up, drag you out, steal it, and drive it off and drop it off somewhere. They didn't steal it because they didn't keep it.
Yeah, look, a lot of these taxi owners. So an owner might have like 5 to 10 minibus taxis that he operates in an area. And all of them walk around with like armed security because it's such a dangerous industry to get into. And like, if you're an Uber driver and they do that to you, I mean, there's a police station in pretty much every suburb. You can go to the police and report it, but they ain't gonna do shit because they don't want to end up in a gunfight with these taxi owners and their armed response.
They're not interested in eliminating the criminal aspect of the society. Like, yeah, fuck it. That's awfully dangerous work. I'm just a cop. What am I supposed to do against these criminals?
Look, in our suburbs, we have a lot of security companies, and they do more police work than the actual police. Like, the police rock up after the criminal has been caught or beat up by the community or caught and, you know, just handcuffed already. There's the proof he was stealing. There's the stuff he was stealing. There's the owner there ready to make, you know, fill in whatever he needs to fill in. And then the cops rock up and they take the criminal, put him in the van and, you know, do all the paperwork and stuff.
Well, it seems to me like the security company could just start cutting out middlemen. Like, why would a rideshare driver hire a security company? Wouldn't it make more sense for a security company to start a rideshare service? Now you just protect yourself.
There's going to be a lot of shootings then. There's going to be a lot of gunfights.
All right, well, let's get a highly trained security service to start the rideshare service. That way, when there is a shootout, they win. Then pretty soon, they stop having shootouts because the people that are trying to stop them die because they got shot.
You're not understanding these taxi association guys. They don't pay tax at all. Every single industry in this country pays some sort of tax. These guys don't pay any kind of tax. And if they're upset about something, like new laws, like restricting them or whatever, then they will block the freeways and no one is going to work or school or whatever until the government relents and lets them, you know, do whatever. I mean, they recently went on a strike because the cops were impounding a lot of their minibus taxis because some of them weren't roadworthy and some of them had so many fines and tickets that were not paid, so they would impound them. And then it ended up being that over a quarter of the city's minibus taxis were impounded. So the taxi owners all got together. Mind you, these guys hate each other. They're always trying to kill each other. But they were able to get together and say, well, fuck this. We need our taxis back. And they blocked the freeway. They blocked the entrance to town. They blocked people from going to work and going to school. And they just put the city to a standstill. And then the government relented and let them have their taxis back. But, you know, with the proviso of saying you need to pay your fines or you need to get this roadworthy and giving them a certain amount of time to do it. But they got their taxis back and then everything was back to normal. These are the type of people you're dealing with.
I gotcha. Well, that makes more sense because, see, in America, the government's in charge. We don't let terrorists run this country in opposition to what the leaders of the country want. It could be argued that the leaders of the country are themselves terrorists, depending on your point of view. Absolutely. But it could also be argued that they've got the permission from the people to do it. If the people put them in charge, then they put them in charge for a reason. Like, if we wanted to say have a crooked taxi cab association rule the country and decide what decisions get made, then I think that's who we would put in charge. That way, if they weren't in charge and they did something like, well, we want to start setting rules and laws for the country as an entire whole, and then we're going to block down the freeways and the highways and the roads until we get what we want, like a bunch of petulant children, well, then I'm pretty sure the government would just come in swiftly and remove them from the highway. Because the government's in charge, not the Taxi Cab Association. And when the Taxi Cab Association starts operating under using terrorism as a tactic against the people of our country, we would probably get pretty upset. I can't believe you guys in Africa would allow taxi cab companies to terrorize you like that. Or allow the cops to not do a fucking thing about it. Or allow your government to just be persuaded. Right? They're just going to be the puppets of the taxi cab corporations. And y'all just sit around like it's cool.
Now do you understand why when I called in after Trump kidnapped the Venezuelan president, I said, Mr. President Donald Trump, because I know my country's weak. I know my country ain't gonna do shit. I mean, we have the...
Well, they will. Just everybody turns to the Taxi Cab Association. Right? They're the ones in charge, aren't they? Isn't the government does their bidding, the people do their bidding. But then when something goes wrong, you look to the government and be like, well, the government's going to protect me. Well, no, the government doesn't protect you from each other. Why would the government protect you from America?
Government is busy stealing money to protect anyone but themselves.
Well, I think they would learn they could make a lot more money if they at least pretended to protect the people of their country.
I don't know about that. See, part of the, the political landscape in South Africa is something that, unless you live in South Africa, you don't really understand, because when you think about it, a lot of our leaders that are in government right now, a lot of them don't even have a high school education, because a lot of them didn't go to school because they were busy fighting for freedom for this country, the liberation of this country. And they were part of, the liberation movement and the ANC, which is the African National Congress Party. So when they got freedom, you have all of these people now that fought for freedom, and they obviously want their reward, and they also want to benefit from, living in a democratic and free country. And a lot of people got jobs that they were not qualified for the sake of, well, we need to put somebody on this post. And a lot of the companies and assets that the government owned have gone down, and some don't even exist anymore because of the incompetence of the people that were in charge. And it still goes on today. You'll find that a lot of people don't even have an accounting degree, yet they're in government institutions where it's all about economics and accounting and all of this crap, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. But because they were the loyal ones, they were the ones fighting for this country to be free, they got that position. So when you're talking about things like common sense on how they should run the country, these oaks are only bothered about getting money for their families and themselves. So when the country does eventually go to shit, they have the money to leave this country and start over somewhere else. They don't really care about the people of this country. But the people of this country will still vote for them because they're scared of voting, for example, white people. Because white people are the ones that enslaved them in the first place. And then you go around, and then the government doesn't educate black people enough, because if you move up in life, you want different things. You stop wanting handouts from the government. So it's in the government's favor to keep people dumb. Because as long as you're dumb, you're going to be dependent on the government to give you subsidies for this and that, for your utilities, to give you housing and that kind of shit, and you'll vote for them. If you smarten up and start earning a better wage, you'll want different things like service delivery, and the government is shit at service delivery. So you'll end up voting for somebody else. And they don't want that. They want your vote. They want your vote, so they're going to keep you dumb.
I mean, it's very similar to the U.S. And the beauty of the misinformation of secondary education, going to college and just getting brainwashed with idiocy. There's been some conversation over the last few weeks in regards to Africa, and I think even sub-Saharan Africa, and the notion of inbreeding, keeping the IQ down below retarded levels, like legally mentally retarded levels, like sub 70, sub 90 IQs, because of all the incest and inbreeding. You hear of anything like that down there, Nuka?
So I went to the kitchen quickly and my pot was burning.
I hate
I
when
just heard
I burn my pot.
inbreeding and I shot to the kitchen. What was that about inbreeding?
Well, there's been some conversation lately here in the States and other places, this idea of a lot of countries in sub-Saharan Africa having low IQs and just being dumb, but being bred that way because of all the inbreeding and incest that goes on. You think that's got anything to do with people letting the taxi cab services take over their country?
No.
No, you guys keep a pretty...
Inbreeding is not a very big thing here.
You guys keep track of that? You
Yeah.
have laws against it?
Yeah, we have laws against it. I think you can marry your second cousin. They'll allow that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's on a plane saying Central Africa has an average IQ of 45. Wrong continent.
Wrong continent, Josh.
I'm not sure that is the wrong one.
East of it. I don't know, maybe he's talking about India and Pakistan and all of those countries. There, you can marry your first cousin.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Somalia had some issues. I'm pretty sure there was some stuff going on in other areas of Africa.
Even African indigenous law in my country wouldn't allow you to marry a relative. Even a second cousin is a little, weird. It wouldn't really allow it.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been cases where, as it so happens that, siblings get separated as children or never get to meet. They were born and then they moved different places, so they don't actually know that they're siblings. And there was a case a few years back, was in the paper, where a brother and sister, they got separated at birth, where the mother and father were not getting along during that pregnancy, and they broke up during the pregnancy. So when the mother gave birth, the father said, well, I want the children. The mother said no. And the guy managed to steal one of the children, managed to steal his son, and moved to a whole different province, and the police couldn't track him and everything. So he just started off in that province, and the mother took the girl and, raised the girl. So same age and everything, they finish high school in their respective provinces. They go to college and they end up in the same college. And, they hit it off. And everybody said, oh, they're such a great couple. You guys even look alike. And they dated until they finished their degrees and everything. And they started working. And then the guy said, well, look, I want to marry you. I think you're the one for me. And as the customs of African indigenous law, his family now needs to go to the lady's family to negotiate the bride price and, all of that stuff. So he tells his father. His father says, okay, my son, let's go do this. Calls up all of the uncles and everything. And they go to the lady's family. And as they walk into the property, there's the mother. And the father now sees the mother and then looks at the girl and figures out, oh shit, this is your sister. And then it was a big issue. And lots of fights happened. And basically they were told that they couldn't be together because of what has happened. They said, well, screw you. We love each other. They tried to be together. But when you have all of that and your family's fighting, all of that pressure, and, they eventually just broke up. And as far as I know, they're still friends, but they're not together anymore.
Seems a strange hill to die on. I don't care what you guys say. I'm marrying my sister.
Well, the guy wasn't going to marry the sister. He said, well, we're not breaking up, because the African indigenous law wouldn't have allowed him to get married to her. Like, there's no ceremony that you can do to say to the ancestors, oh, by the way, I want to marry my sister. There's nothing that happens like that.
Well, you're right.
Can't marry her.
I guess I did misspeak. It still seems awfully strange to say, for a strange hill to die on, to say that, screw you guys, I don't care what you say, we're going to have sex and be together forever. Me and my sister.
Yeah. They were young in love. To them, that's all that mattered, I guess. And then they grew up a little bit and realized it takes more than love to make things work.
No surer way to shave off IQ points than to be in love. That'll make you real stupid. Big shout out to Brian Gasca in chat. Good morning, Brian. Good to see you there. Not that I'm ignoring everybody else. Good morning to all you folks, too. I just happened to see Brian pop up on the screen. I haven't seen his name there in a while.
The Lannisters have left the chat. There's a Game of Thrones fan in chat.
That's right, Laura. Incest is best. Fun for the whole family.
There's a name for when family members decide not to engage in incest, when they got separated at a young age and meet on later on in life and have feelings for each other. I can't remember, but there was a name. They actually covered it in college.
Wow, see, I don't know.
Yeah,
you're telling me it doesn't happen, but it sounds to me like there's a pretty strong
this
precedent that's been set, enough that they need to introduce a whole word into the vocabulary of society to account for this particular action. Like in America, we would just say, well, we'll take the long form. When a brother and sister are born to the same mother and father but are separated at birth but then are reunited later and fall in love. Yeah, that's what we would say. We wouldn't think, you know what? That's awfully wordy. We're saying that so much, we need to come up with a way to just shorten it to one word. I think it's rare enough in America we just say the whole fucking thing. We don't need to come up with abbreviated versions because we use it so much. But I'd be curious to know what that word is.
I'm actually trying to look for it now. It's too bad you don't have breaks anymore with music. Then I could do this and talk.
It's not easy.
It's just the two of us.
It's hard to produce and host, isn't it? Shit's not easy. Why I have to end up ignoring chat, because I'm on the internet trying to talk, trying to listen, trying to participate in the conversation, trying to get high, drink my coffee.
Somebody said sheep shaggers. But you can't help who you fall in love with. I'm more sympathetic to the siblings, being in love and whatever. Just as long as they don't have children or get married or anything, they can do whatever the hell they want. They're two consenting adults, especially if they didn't know. They just found out later on in life.
But would you say love is a feeling? Is that like there are acts of love? It can definitely be an action, but isn't it also a feeling? Like you say, you can't choose who you fall in love with.
That's a philosophical question there. What is love? I mean, I suppose it is a feeling. You can look at it that way.
I think I am so codependent that I fall in love with many, many women. Because in my codependent brain, that's what it is.
So are you saying, even if they didn't know and they found out later on in life, they should just separate? They just can't be together. That's it for you.
Say that again?
So are you, I'm just saying, are you saying that even though they didn't know that they related, they found out later on in life when they were already in a relationship, you're unforgiving of that? You just said they must just separate. They can't be together in any shape or form outside of being siblings.
Well, I mean, like in the example you provided, they could definitely remain friends and siblings. I don't see why that would be an impossibility. Do I think a sexual relationship would be advisable with your sibling? Probably not. Because while it is true, you can't really choose necessarily who you fall in love with. Feelings aren't facts, because feelings will change. Like, you're not suggesting that people act on every feeling they have, are you? We can agree that perhaps that just because someone has a feeling, they shouldn't necessarily act on it, and sometimes it would be a good idea to have a feeling, but then not do anything about it, because the feeling would be inappropriate, or the action that the feeling generates would be inappropriate. And you say, well, I have some self-control and I'm just not going to do that thing, even though I wanna. I shouldn't, so I won't.
Yeah, but Josh, you've already answered this. Being in love makes you stupid. You're talking about common sense here. Like, if you want to look at it that way, sure. But when you're in love with somebody, you are a little bit stupid. You want to be with that person.
Right. So you're saying you should just do it?
I'm saying if you do it and you didn't know, I suppose it's acceptable, as long as you don't have children.
So it might even be a really good idea to just marry a complete stranger that you know absolutely nothing about. That way,
would be ideal.
Anything you find out won't be a deal breaker. Like, well, look, I didn't know that when we got married. Am I just supposed to break up with her now because she's a serial killer? I didn't know. I can't help who I fall in love with. What am I supposed to do about it? What could I possibly do about it?
Okay, let's take that common sense route that you're taking. What do you think of same-sex marriages and love? Like if you're gay or lesbian.
What do you mean? What do I think about it? I think it's gross.
Is that wrong? Is that wrong?
What do you mean when you say wrong? Like morally wrong? Do I have a moral objection to it?
Yeah.
It's a really good question that I ask myself quite often.
Quite often?
Yeah. Because I feel so sort of far removed from all this stuff that I can see it from multiple angles, but don't agree with any one particular one that I can say, yep. Like I could see from a religious standpoint how it would be morally wrong, but that's like the only way. I can see
Why would it
Christian
be morally wrong?
because it goes against God's word.
And if they're not Christian, what if they're atheists? Then it's
Then
not
what the fuck?
wrong.
Then nothing's wrong. There is no wrong. You don't get to claim right and wrong when you're a secularist. Like, you'd have to be able to ground it. You'd have to say, this is why things are wrong. This is what right is, and this is what wrong is. And if you're not a Christian, you don't really have those legs to stand on to be able to do that.
So, do you believe when gay people say that it's not a choice, that that's how they were born? Do you believe that, or do you believe that they decided to pick to be gay?
I think that's also a bifurcation. I don't know that they're born gay, but I also don't believe that kids are born straight. Like, they're just kind of little asexual creatures that don't have those hormones pumping through their body yet. Like, that's not necessarily how they see the world on what they're sexually attracted to. They just are. Little boys and little girls can play together without having sexual tension in kindergarten class. Usually. The healthy, non-abused ones anyway.
And then, should these gay couples or lesbian couples be allowed to adopt children? Because they've picked to be in that sort of lifestyle. But when you adopt a child, you're just sort of picking for the child to sort of deal with why he has two dads or two moms or whatever.
So again, from like a Christian standpoint, I would say that they can't even be married because marriage would be between a man and a woman. But to have two men raising a child without the influence of a mother is not ideal for the child. Best outcomes for children come when they're raised by a father and a mother, their father and mother. Those get the best outcome, even if the parents are completely and totally unhappy. Like if the parents hate each other and they're only staying together for the kids, those kids still have better outcomes than kids of single parents, divorced parents. If what your interest is keeping healthy children to become healthy adults, the parents will stay together no matter what, because that's what's best for the children. I'm sure there's exceptions, physical abuse, things like that there's no reason that the parents should stay together. But just being unhappy wouldn't be enough of a reason to get a divorce, because it's going to put your children at such a disadvantage for the rest of their lives that you would sacrifice the children for your own happiness.
So they shouldn't be allowed to. I mean, for argument's sake, people say there's children in the system that need parents to look after them so they can get an upper hand in life when you have that support system, even if it is two moms or two dads.
Yeah, I mean, that system's gonna really up your chances of being sexually abused, being sexually trafficked somewhere else. I mean, that system isn't necessarily what's best for children either.
See, you're not the only one saying that. Ian is saying that too. To a child to get abused in a gay household, children get abused in a gay... And I've heard that before. Clearly, somebody has done a study on this, that if you are raised by same-sex parents, there's a higher chance of abuse in that household.
So I know that lesbian couples have the highest rate of domestic violence. So that might well translate into parenting. I know Again, another great reason why parents should stay together even if they're unhappy, because a single mom, children of single mothers are more likely to be abused than children of single fathers. And that's just mainly because men are stronger. And if a stepdad is introduced into the picture and starts beating on the kids, there ain't not a fucking thing the mom's going to really be able to do about it, except if she's healthy, then call the cops and get some other men in there with stronger, more numbers, and armed to take care of that child-beaten asshole. Whereas when a stepmother is introduced and she starts beating on the kids, the guy just grabs her by the scruff of the neck and chucks her out the front door to get the fuck out. You're not going to hit my kid. And they can nip that shit in the bud.
Now how many kids are in welfare and need parents? And how many people are on a waiting list to receive children? Like normal people. I'm not going to offend anyone. I say normal, I mean a man and a woman.
There are lots of kids in foster care that need a foster family. But again, it's such a shitty institution that there are people out there that will take advantage. Much like the Somali daycare, where they'll just stack kids in their home for the paycheck that they get for each kid, and use fostering as a source of income. And they're not necessarily focused on the betterment of the children. Now, when it comes to adoption, there's a wait list. Like, we couldn't have enough babies born to fill the wait list of people that want to adopt a baby. I mean, we kill them by the millions, but even if we didn't, even if every one of those abortions went up for adoption, we'd still probably have a wait list of people waiting to adopt babies.
So just to get clearance there, you said a baby, so meaning like a baby that's just sort of been born or like a month or two old or something.
Yes, so the main difference between that and like foster care. Like even if you happen to have like a 6-month-old baby go into foster care that needed a fostering, I'm sure those go pretty quick. But even then, it's those that want to adopt and say, this is my child now, as opposed to temporarily taking one on until they turn 18 or find someone to adopt them. Because there's way more children that are like actual children waiting to be adopted. Mainly because people want to be able to have the illusion of their own child, mold that young mind into something that they would recognize and be familiar with, like they would their own child, as opposed to adopting an 8-year-old who's already had 8 years of formative education.
Dare I ask, are trans people allowed to adopt?
I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are adoption agencies. There are probably adoption agencies out there specifically for trans couples, would be my guess.
Which will come with its own problems.
Oh, yeah. But it's not like if you had already had children and then came out as trans and transitioned, it's like they would come and take your kids away. You'd still get to be the parent.
Right. Okay. I see. Weird system you have there. We don't have a lot of people waiting for children. But our abortion rates are very low. I mean, teenagers, people fuck up and have children when they're not supposed to, get pregnant, but they tend to keep their babies. Grandparents might end up looking after the children, but they keep their babies. there used to be in my area. There used to be a center where you could basically an abortion center. When I was still in high school, where you can go and have your abortion, but it went out of business. They weren't making any money. So people weren't aborting their children. So,
Well, that's a good thing.
let's see what else is on. What has Trump done today? Seems like every day he's done something.
I think the most recent thing, is him threatening to use the Insurrection Act in Minnesota.
I read about that. You want to explain to me what the Insurrection Act is?
I mean, I'd have to look it up specifically, but I can only guess that it's when there's a armed insurrection against the government that needs to be stamped down. I mean, if they're attacking the federal agents, smashing and looting federal vehicles, stealing firearms, stealing ammo, stealing lawn chairs, stealing whatever they can find, just completely scavenging automobiles just because it's, something. And then attacking them, blocking them in, surrounding them, obstruction.
Wasn't he due to have a meeting with people from Greenland or something?
I think so.
I'm sure that was yesterday.
I saw a bunch of soldiers from Europe, I think is how that headline read, had just landed over there in Greenland.
Right.
And I saw there were people in the U.S. federal government here taking a strong stance against any sort of claim to Greenland in any way, shape, or form. Like, we're not taking Greenland. Like, I don't care what you say, Trump. We're just, we're not taking another country.
I wonder what his overall plan is. I mean, we're still in first month of the year, and everything seems to be going to shit.
I think his overall plan is to amass as much money from the Israel lobby as possible, even if that means being a complete puppet. And if Israel wants us to bomb Iran, we're going to fucking bomb Iran.
You guys already bombed Iran.
Yeah. But now we don't like what the government's doing with the people. We don't like the fact that they're executing thousands of protesters. So we're at least threatening to go back and do something else. Like, they had one protester that was arrested and was scheduled to get hung yesterday, be hanged yesterday. I don't know how well hung he is, but he was due to be hanged yesterday. But apparently Trump and the Ayatollah had come to an agreement, and his execution was stayed and he was not hanged.
So here's something about Iran. Last few days, I think it was 2 days ago, President Trump, increased our tariffs by another 25%, bringing them to 50%. And it was in retaliation to the war games. At least we think that's what it was. It was in retaliation to the war games that our country is doing with Russia, China, and Iran off our coast. But before those tariffs were implemented by President Trump, our president actually uninvited Iran from the war games. But our Navy generals ignored him. They ignored the president and carried on with the war games. And the war games continued, and later on that day I saw that our tariffs had been increased by another 25%. So I found that funny when I was reading all about it.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that you'd have the admirals just completely ignore. I'm not sure Trump would put up with that shit.
Yeah, but he's weak. Why would you uninvite him now because Trump has threatened you? You invited them for a reason. Let them continue their war games.
Maybe you
didn't help.
Uninvite him because he's killing thousands of protesters.
Yeah, he's doing that. But you made a decision, and now you're getting threatened. And you are collapsing from the blackmail. That's stupid. And it didn't even work anyway. He still gave you tariffs. So what was it all for? You've lost faith.
You don't think it's
In
stupid.
the eyes of Iran.
You know
and
better
you
than
still
that.
got the tariffs.
You don't think it's stupid. You know better.
No.
Why did you, when you called in and was calling him Mr. Trump, and what a great president he was, why were you doing that?
We don't have oil to...
Because you know your country is weak and won't do anything. You know your country will just roll over to the fucking taxi cab drivers. The entire strength of the military is at the mercy of taxi cab drivers.
See now, Randall is saying that a drone can be at my location within minutes. Listen, if anyone's listening, I love America. I think you guys are great.
Now who's weak? So when your president says, hey, maybe we ought to just go ahead and uninvite Iran because America doesn't want us to have Iran there, how are you going to say that's weak? Again, I don't think you think it's weak. I think you think it's smart for the same reason you would talk about how great America is and how you don't want to have a drone there in just a matter of minutes. I mean, you know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them because you might not be able to walk away.
I better increase the speed on my fan. It's getting hot here. Yeah, I'm starting to sweat here.
Like if someone was threatening you.
David says America don't love me. Listen, they don't have to love me. They just have to not shoot me. Okay, that's all I want.
So if they tell you to do something and you know they might shoot you if you don't do what they say, wouldn't it be a good idea to just go ahead and do what they say? Maybe uninvite Iran from the war games?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be smart?
Losing faith. It would be smart if the other countries were also not there doing their war games. You're losing face and you showing how weak you are in front of your allies. You're losing face. It's not about Iran and all the atrocities they've done and all of that shit. It's about you and you losing face for your country and showing the weakness. I mean,
I can totally appreciate that. Like that's sort of what I speak to when I talk about the idea that your entire government and the force of your military is at the mercy of taxi cab drivers. Because like as a people, as a citizenry, you lose face. Like, here's all these people that we want to be in charge, and then here's the people over here. Here's the taxi cab drivers and the ones that are really in charge. Because really, nothing we do is going to matter. We're all going to be at the mercy of the cabbies.
You really love these taxi drivers.
I love the fact that they run your fucking country.
You still haven't learned anything.
So where do you think...
No one runs this country. It's a free-for-all.
Well, I mean, if the cab drivers want something and the government doesn't give it to them and they shut down the highways until the government gives them what they want, knowing that the government is going to eventually give them whatever they want, then it doesn't sound like it's the government that's in charge.
As I was saying, I take it back. Gangs run this country. If you can form a big enough gang with a lot of guns, you can run this country too.
Well, that's life. That's the beauty of men. Like we can always be in charge. Men can always be in charge at any given fucking time. Like just
Before we
straight
continue,
in charge of everything. Just take control. Because we have
before
the
we
power.
continue with our taxi gangs, I'd like an explanation of what you think love is.
I think it's a word that's used to describe many things, which makes it hard to
Let
define.
me help you. Let me help you. I'm talking about romantic love.
I still stand by what I say. Knowing that there are different types of love, if we just want to focus on purely romantic love, I think that the word love points to many different things, which makes it hard to actually define. Because it makes it so easy for that equivocation. Like, love is a feeling, but love can also be an action. Like, love with only feelings but no action involved isn't really love. And you can go through the motions and show the actions of love, but without the feeling, it's also not love. But that feeling, is it just a matter of chemical reactions in the brain? Endorphins being released? Because of pheromones in the body? Is it some deeper spiritual connection that occurs when two souls come together? I think that the word love points to so many different things that it's hard to define because of the equivocation that can occur. That we'd have to really define what we mean.
On a plane it says love is a virus. Wait, let me scroll up. Love is the virus that fucks men up and eventually leads them to payments for their estranged kids. Oddly specific there.
Heart of yours says, I can say gay because that's my mother's middle name. Means happy.
What, is gay illegal now?
I mean, the F word is still pretty illegal.
Illegal in what way, though? As in it will piss somebody off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not illegal.
No.
People can say the
I didn't
N-word.
mean like against the law. We have freedom of speech in America, so there's not many words that are illegal. And fag is definitely not one of them. But like, A, it's not really a word I ever use. B, I would never like call DJ that word. Ever. I would never use that word in reference to someone who's a homosexual. Now I might call Walt a fag. But I would never use it in terms of someone who's like an actual homosexual just because of the negative connotation. But it's still a word in the English vocabulary. No matter how hard they tried to stamp it out.
The freedom of speech concept. I don't know if we'll ever have real freedom of speech in this country, but, you know, I'm the right color.
You will.
So I should be fine.
If you can petition the cabbies. Ask them for your freedom of speech. Just say, hey.
Bastards are so rude. They're so rude when, you know, they driving around and playing their loud music and shit. And you have to sit there and take it. I got so annoyed with them. They were the sole reason I actually got out and bought a car before I was ready. I was so annoyed at taking taxis that I literally the next day I took a bus. I went to a dealership and I bought a car because I never wanted to be in another taxi again. But yeah, that's my country.
Surely there's cab gangs that don't blast their music that you could call. Like,
No, a lot of them are very nice people. They'll greet, they're cordial and everything. But you always run into an asshole every now and then.
can't you just get out the fucking car? Like, why continue the ride with an asshole?
Because you've already paid. You don't pay at the end of where you're going. You pay once the taxi's full, everybody pays, and the taxi goes and drops you off at all your little stops.
Oh, that's
So
unusual.
you can get out of the taxi, but you'll have to take another one and pay again.
So even if you, all right. That's interesting though. The idea of like a group taxi. Like you can, but it's got to be like a mutually agreed upon situation. Like, hey, how about we split a cab? Versus, all right, I'm a taxi cab driver, so I'm just going to sit here and wait for every square inch of my car to get filled up with a body. Then I could just go start dropping bodies off. I mean, I get the idea, maximize the profits, but usually it's like, hey, I need a cab taxi, and you hop in the taxi and drive off.
So these taxis used to have a conductor. Every taxi, when I was growing up, when I was so small, they had a conductor. Now, the conductor is really there to collect the money from everyone and give people their change. So say the taxi is $1.50. Well, it's actually the wrong amount. But anyway, say you've paid your fare and you need change. You give your money to the conductor and the conductor, gives you the change. And also you tell the conductor your stop, where you're getting off. And he'll tell the driver like which routes to take and whatever. But as time went on, because there was just an extra seat taken away by the conductor, they got greedy and they got rid of conductors. So now, whoever sits in the front, because in the front you can sit 3 people, including the driver. So whoever sits in the front now in this taxi, you are responsible for counting the money, the fares for everyone, and giving them their change. It's not a law or anything. It's just sort of those unwritten rules. That if you're in a taxi and you sit in the front, you're going to be counting the money because everybody's just going to pay you. Because you can't give it to the driver because he's already driving. So you can't be counting money and driving. You want to arrive at your destination while you're still alive. So if you're not very good with maths,
damn,
you shouldn't sit in the front. Because everybody's going to hassle you.
So the cabbies have just decided that slave labor is cool? Or do you get paid to count their shit? Like,
fuck no. You decided to sit in the front. You're going to count the
so all right. So they don't care how well you do math, huh?
They care about the amounts. See, even if you're not good at maths, what I used to do is I would ask how much is the fare that they're supposed to get. Out of 50, let's say it's $1, and there's 15 people in the car, you need to get $15. So people might pay with a 10 or a 5 or whatever. I would take the $15, give it to the taxi, to the driver, and then what's left is obviously everybody else's change. So then I start dishing out their change. If I get it wrong, tough shit. What are you going to do to me? The driver already has his money, and it's not my fault. I'm not a conductor. It's not my fault you paid with $10 or something, and I don't have change. Or I didn't give you the right change. It's not my problem. If the driver does not get his fare, he will stop the taxi. You could be in the middle of a fucking freeway. He will put his hazards on, stop the taxi, and he'll tell everybody, figure it out. But this is the amount I'm supposed to get. I want my money.
Or what?
Or no one's getting to their destination.
Well, look, he $10 for him. Everybody got their change. That extra $5, I don't know what happened to it. I'm not good at math. It wasn't my idea to make the guy who sits in front do the math. If you figure it out. Maybe there is no 5. Maybe everybody just got extra change. Maybe you gave the money back like Robin Hood, took it from the cab drivers and said, nope, you don't need 15, you need 10, and everybody else gets the extra money back with their change. Maybe they stop asking you to be the guy that counts the change. Hey, sorry, Duma, you don't sit in front anymore.
You remember what I said about guns, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You don't want to be snippy with the drivers.
I wouldn't have to say a fucking word. He got $10 and that's all the money that's left. I don't know what to tell you.
And then he might just grab your phone. He says, well, I'm taking your phone then. I'm going to sell it and I'll get my money. And then you try and fight and then he shoots you in the head.
So much like the president who might uninvite Iran, your best bet's just to do whatever the fuck they tell you to do. Even if it means you might look like a little bitch about it, but at least you stay alive.
Or buy a car.
I still think it speaks to the mentality of the people around. Yeah, I'm the type of guy that would completely withdraw too. Like, I'm not even going to play that fucking game. I'll just get my own car. But for the people that do play that game, what the fuck kind of game are they playing? Is there anybody that they won't be subservient to? Like the government, the taxi cab drivers, any gangs? Like, do they just decide, well, I might get hurt if I stand up for myself? So it's best if nobody ever stands up for themselves and we all just get railroaded by the gangs because that's just smart. Because I stay alive. I'd rather live on my knees than die on my feet, which is an interesting point of view.
Mentality. Yeah, look, I once got in a fight with somebody that ended up in a coma. Because number one, we shouldn't have been fighting because he was drunk. And, you know, he hurt himself when he fell. And he was in the ICU and this guy almost died. And you know, I almost got arrested. I almost got arrested for murder. But being this is South Africa, I was able to, I won't say exactly how I got out of it, but I got out of it. And since that day, unless it has to do with protecting my family or myself, I will walk away. You can say whatever the hell you want to me. I will walk away. Because I've been there where you've almost been arrested and having to deal with all of this shit. It's not worth it. Rather let somebody talk their shit. As long as they're not doing anything to you, just walk away. Because I know if I get angry enough and then I fight, if I'm fighting you, I'm not fighting because to fight. I'm fighting to kill you. If I'm in a fight, I'm trying to kill you. Because I'll lose my shit that much. So I'd rather just walk away. And it came to a point where I was getting so annoyed with these taxi people that I was going to end up killing somebody or me dying. So it's best for me to just get my own car.
And see, I think sometimes sacrifices need to be made for the greater good. Yeah, Laura, I'm not saying that that's me. I was simply expressing the viewpoint, how I saw it, of these African people that, like, apparently knew if you drove a taxi bus, it wouldn't matter if the guy fell into a coma or if the guy died, because if you drive a taxi bus, you just get to do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, stop your car in the middle of the fucking freeway, tell the people to figure out your money. Like, all right, bitches, I got a pile of money in my bus. I want you all motherfuckers to figure out how much I need, how much you get back, and we're just going to sit here until you all count my money for me. And I don't think that that's necessarily a point of view where people are like, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me make your change, sir. is not necessarily a viewpoint of many Americans. We believe that sometimes the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots. Rather than being subservient to anybody who makes the claim that I am.
Countries.
You know what's a bad business practice is murdering your entire clientele. You know what taxi cab gangs are not going to do? Kill everybody. But if everybody decides not to put up with their shit, what are they going to do? Kill everybody? Now we're a taxi cab driver where we just drive each other around.
These people are done with their fighting. They've done a lot of their fighting during the apartheid era, fighting against cops, being bitten by dogs, jailed, killed. They did their fighting. It's up to the new generation to fight. And the new generation is weak because they're westernized as well. And they have no backbone. The older generation might have fought. But they did all their fighting back then, and now they're tired. And yeah, it is what it is. Nothing I can do by myself.
And that's how you end up being controlled by gangs.
Yes, so. When are these midterms happening? They must hurry up already. I want to see what's going to happen.
Oh, Trump's going to lose his ass is what's going to happen.
You sure about that?
Whatever ability he had to get shit done, he needed to get it done. Needs to get it done before the midterms. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So when he loses the midterms, what happens?
He loses the supermajority and the ability to do whatever the fuck he wants, essentially.
That all?
Pretty well. I mean, if the Republicans aren't controlling the House and the Senate and the presidency, it's going to make it a lot harder for them to get done whatever it is they want to get done. And it's not like they really have any intention of getting much done. A lot of talking, a lot of planning. A lot of kicking the can down the road. But if there is shit that they want to get done, they're going to have a lot harder time. Yeah, Laura, they call it a lame duck presidency. Especially because it's his second term. So, like, all of his long-term plans are kind of always put into question because he doesn't have the strength of continuity unless we can guarantee J.D. Vance becomes the next president.
So now, haven't they done away with Obamacare and replaced it with affordable something? I forgot what it's called now. But it's essentially Obamacare, only you're paying more.
So I don't think they actually got rid of Obamacare. I do know that he just put out a video within the last couple days about sort of what his proposed ideas are for bringing down healthcare costs, and it wasn't like a Medicare program. Basically, he's changing the way that insurance companies do business. He's going to make it so they have to come up with a new business model. So they're going to have to show how much they're paying versus how much they're getting so that you can see how much they're profiting. He's going to change, I think, healthcare providers to show basically like a menu. He wants going to the hospital to be like going to a restaurant, where you can go look at what it is you want and see how much it costs. And if it's not what you want to pay, you can go somewhere else, because they're going to have those same offerings, but they're going to have prices listed. Now it's not that way in America. You don't know how much you're going to have to pay until well after the procedure is done. You don't get to know how much it costs ahead of time. This is the problem I had with getting my cataract surgery done. Why I garnered so much why I hold still so much resentment to the billing department and the eye surgeon, because they just fucked it all up. Like, all I wanted to know was how much it was going to cost. Just tell me how much it is. But they
Roughly.
And they won't.
That's crazy.
So 2 things, Regina. I saw that you'd sent me a message. I saw that you told me that you sent me a message for Walter, and I will check that out. And then you wanted me to show people how to set it. Their messages. Because I know people don't know about it, don't think about it, or forget to do it. And I think it's one of those things that YouTube uses just to sow a little bit of discord. I don't know why else they would do it. Let me see if I can do this real quick.
So what happens, can't pay? You've gone in and had the surgery, and they've charged you an astronomical amount, which you don't have.
You just carry that debt around with you.
So when you go to another hospital or the same hospital for another surgery, won't they, will they still do the surgery even though you owe them so much money?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they're more than willing to just charge you more.
And then if you die, who carries that debt?
Now, that's a good question. Now, for like credit reports, I think most most negative entries on your credit report fall off after 7 years, is what I've heard. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I haven't really paid attention, but I think it's a waiting game. I think you can eventually outweight the most credit companies, or most anybody trying to collect a debt collector is the word I'm looking for. All right. Now, if everybody will kindly turn to their screen, you'll see the homepage of IronRealmMedia. This is the channel here. We're watching me get a little recursive. But on the right side of the screen is the chat. Right here, it says the whole chat. And you'll notice when I clicked on the live stream and it pulled up the live stream and I'm watching the live stream, right up here at the top of the chat, it says top chat. Here, we just close the chat out. Now there's no chat showing. Like, maybe I want to read the chat. So I'll come down here where it says live chat and you click live chat. Boom, and it opens the panel and now it says top chat. You're still not looking at the live chat. Even though you've clicked that live chat button, YouTube in its infinite wisdom has decided not to make the live chat button go to the live chat. When it pulls the chat up, chat is at top chat. So you got to hit that drop down menu and click and change it into live chat. Now the live chat button is actually the live chat, and this is going to show you all the messages that come through. So you have to do that every single time you click a video and want to get into the chat. It's not a setting you can change. It's not anything you can do to have YouTube just say the live chat button goes to a live chat. Nope. This is what you have to do every time you want to chat live when you're watching a live video on YouTube. Because fucking YouTube. So if people think maybe their messages aren't being seen or being censored, a lot of times they just haven't clicked that live chat and they're not seeing all the messages. So it's not that they're being censored in what they say, they're being censored in what they see. Because fucking YouTube.
Looks like we had a baller in the chat calling all of us idiots, asking if we still believed if the earth is flat. He quickly got his message deleted and timed out.
Well, that's because nobody likes him. It wasn't because he was a baller. It's because he's got a shitty personality.
Oh, he's a regular.
Uh-huh. Regular. He comes through on occasion.
Oh, Flat Earth is dead on YouTube. Why does he still want to do things like that? It's wasting his time. He needs to go to TikTok and go argue with people there.
Yeah. Go run off with Craig and do some modern day debates. That's what they need, a tag team with Craig and Brenda.
Is Jaren still being...
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
I must check out his channel. I haven't in a while.
Where's Andrew when you need him?
Probably getting a handy in the movie theater.
Or giving himself a handy watching Netflix.
Netflix and chill. I'm getting worried there about Zack. He never sent anything.
It is strange. He's usually around at some point.
Maybe he's stoned. Okay.
I don't think he'd be stoned. It's Friday. I'm pretty sure he'd be going into work. I don't think he smokes before work. And I don't even know what.
Maybe I
should.
Is there a state in America where prostitution is legal?
Yes. The state of delusion. No, where is that? Nevada. Prostitution is legal in Nevada.
So you have girls standing in, like, on the sidewalk, and you can pick them up, go to a motel or something, exchange money, and they have sex, and whatever, and no cops are going to do anything?
So I think you can still have black market prostitution in Nevada. Now, it's not like the prostitutes run the whole fucking state, but they are like a commissioned service, kind of like a taxi cab driver, I do believe. So there's oversight and government regulation in regards to legal prostitution in Nevada, the way I understand it. Like, I have no idea. I've been to Las Vegas. I've been through Nevada once, and that was basically as just a layover at the airport. It's the only time I've ever done any gambling was the one-armed bandit at the airport in Las Vegas. And that's when I was 18 on my way to San Diego for boot camp. Thought, hey, I'll play the slots. I've never played a slot machine before. So I did. And I've never played one since. Like, all right, that's just dumb as fuck. So luckily, even with my addictive personality, that is one addiction I've managed to avoid utterly and completely, is gambling and betting. And not to get too Sodom and Gomorrah on you, but seems to be a real societal downfall once they start allowing these sinful behaviors, things that Christians would consider sinful. Like, there's a reason they didn't want gambling and prostitution in their towns. why it's always historically been illegal.
But people still do it anyway.
Yeah. And then they have an entire segment of the police department dedicated to those particular vices.
Yeah, but why? I don't see anything wrong with prostitution. They're providing a service for men
Like a
that
hitman.
might require that service.
Like a hitman. Ain't nothing wrong with a little hitman action, right? An assassin is providing a service, clearly. Someone's going to want to pay for the service, and he's willing to provide it. That's just capitalism. Why can't we allow to have a professional hitman service? Right, we'll let the government come in. You want those cabbies, you want cabbies to be afraid. Licensed hitmen. Murder for hire. Right? Why
Are
not?
you done now? Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
It's not a service being provided,
Yeah, you're killing people.
but it's a
It's
service.
not the same thing.
Well, for a price.
Same thing. Not the same thing as
No,
proving the guy's
you're right. It's not the same thing. What would be the point of comparing the same thing?
Yeah, but
We have to compare. We have for a comparison. It by definition has to be different. So telling me that it's not the same thing is not going to be much of an argument. It's supposed to be different.
within reason.
How is that
What
not
your
reasonable?
objection to prostitution besides the Christianity
It's-
and the morality thing, which is
Oh, from a purely secularist point of view, from a non-Christian point of view, there's nothing wrong with it. Again, if you're not a Christian, you don't have those legs to stand on to say, well, this is right and this is wrong. You don't have any basis of morality, of morals, when you're not a Christian. Everybody can just do whatever they want. No one thing is better than the other, or one thing is worse than the other. Everything just sort of is, and everybody's equal.
okay, Josh. What do you think? Take your brain now and use it for the other side.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the justification for having prostitution to be legal?
The justification for having it to be legal?
Yeah.
Because of all of these poor single women that have no really good way of making a better way of making a living, of making ends meet. It's a way of them providing a roof over their heads and food in their belly, the lights on, water coming out of the tap, in ways that a lot of these women wouldn't be otherwise able to do. And not to mention, it provides a whole subsection for the entire economy. Like you have the Johns, the prostitutes, the pimps, the government regulation. So now you get all sorts of public servants to come in and help regulate that entire service. I mean, it could, just like having undocumented workers come in every year to help us empty our fields out and get our food distributed. They provide a valuable service. And to keep them safe, it should be regulated by the government, but for their own well-being, they should just be allowed to do whatever they're told for the right price for sexual gratification of another. Oh, thanks, Anna, and the crack. Because it's really, at the end of the day, this is not good for the women's psyche. That's why so many of them turn to drugs and alcohol and succumb to addiction, is because ultimately it's not good for the person. Whether it's good for their mental health or their physical health, their sexual health. I mean, ultimately, this sort of thing isn't good for women in the long run, for prostitutes, men or women in the long run. And that's why so many of them know deep down, and they have to try to rationalize and balance that conflict, which is usually where the drugs and alcohol come in. So in terms of economy, you're now introducing drugs, which is, a huge business. So I think just for the economy, they should totally allow legal prostitution. Because look, if you legalize assassination, you've got the morgues, you've got the cemeteries, you've got the backhoe diggers. I mean, you can really prop up an economy by legalized assassinations as well.
Again with the assassin.
Well, I mean, if you have no moral endpoint, if anything you can do is moral, then I don't see why you would want to stop at prostitution. I don't think there's a single argument for legalized prostitution that wouldn't also apply to legalized assassination. Generally speaking.
Generally speaking, huh?
Well, because the two industries are different, because they're not the same, because I'm comparing two different things, because that's how comparisons work, that they would have to ultimately be different. So there would be in the details of the specifics of the industries. But ultimately, the arguments for whether they should or shouldn't be legal, I think would be the same. That's why I used them as a comparison, because it wouldn't really matter. I just said assassination because that's one step forward. I mean, we could take one step back. I don't think it really matters. Anything that...
What's one step back?
Gambling. You could legalize gambling. That doesn't make it a good thing. I mean, you can use it. It's really supporting an economy. There's millions of dollars that are now being introduced into the economy from all these online betting places. But I don't think it's a good thing. I think that money would be better spent on other things. And that if it weren't there, it would be better for society as a whole.
Are there any free, in the States, are there any free, what do you call them? Rehab centers? For things like gambling or sex addiction and stuff like that?
I wouldn't say centers. There's usually at least weekly. I'm not entirely sure about like Gamblers Anonymous, but I know that there's like Alcoholics Anonymous. You can find multiple meetings 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can never not go to a meeting if you want to go to a meeting. But there's not like a free center. Like a center is going to require a mortgage, electricity, furniture, beds, doctors, nurses. Like all that shit's going to cost money. There's nowhere is that just going to be free stuff that just appears out of nowhere.
Shouldn't that be covered by the tax that people pay?
Well, fuck no. I'd much rather just get rid of gambling than use my taxes to pay for a center for all the motherfuckers that can't do it responsibly. No.
So they aren't free. So if you...
Well, that's my point. They're never free.
Addiction.
It doesn't just materialize out of thin air. Like even the chairs in the lobby of the waiting room of the building had to be produced by a factory with materials that cost them money. Like nothing's fucking free.
Josh, wait. So I'm a family man, or fake family man, and I've got 3 children and a wife, and I have not alcohol, let's say a sex addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad that I'm checking off at work, checking off in my car, parking lots, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get help. There's obviously places you can go to. So you're saying they're all going to cost money. There's not a single one I can go to where it's not going to charge me anything because I don't have the money.
Right. Like, if you couldn't get to work, you lived like 45 minutes from your work, you couldn't just go demand a Lamborghini. Be like, look, I got to get to work. People should just provide me with the things that I need so that I can go to my job and get money. And if I can't do it, then someone needs to provide it for me. And that's just not something I necessarily believe. Like, yeah, I mean, you can find a meeting, but if you want to get checked into an inpatient rehab center for your sexual addiction, somebody's going to pay for it. Like, it's a rehab, right? Somebody had to buy the building. Someone has to pay the doctors to be there. Someone has to pay the nurses to be there. Someone has to pay the counselors to be there. If it's inpatient, you got to pay for the rooms, the beds, the food. Like, everything is going to cost money. It's never going to be free. So you can't expect it to be free. Like, well, why would I have to pay? Well, because that's how shit works. If you want something, you have to pay for it. Somebody has to pay for it. Now, what you're saying is, well, shouldn't you just be able to have other people fix your problems for you? The answer is, I don't think so. Like, if you can't afford an inpatient rehab, then you don't go to inpatient rehab. Like, there are rehab facilities in the tropical islands where it's all about fresh fruit and meditation. But just because you have a sexual addiction doesn't mean you get to pack your bags and head off to the Caribbean. That ain't the one you going to, baby. You can't afford that shit. You find one you can afford. And if you can't find one, guess what you get? Just out of common sense. If you can't afford any rehab, what rehab are you going to? Just out of common sense, Newcomb. Which one would you be going to? You can't afford anything. Which one will you be going to?
You're not going to go to any one of them.
That's exactly. If you can't afford a car to get back and forth to work, your ass is riding a bike. Doesn't mean people are supposed to now provide you a car, because cars cost money. So to have a car, you got to pay the money to reimburse the people that spent the money to make the car. You want to go to rehab, fine, but you got to pay to go to that rehab to reimburse the people that have already spent the money to make the rehab exist in the first place. And I don't think asking other people, the taxpayers, to just do it for you is reasonable.
So they're saying in chat that there's meetings that you can go to, sort of like AA.
Yep.
But meetings aren't going to really fix anything.
They will.
You have,
if you work them.
addiction.
It works if you work it. Keep coming back.
So here's my other question. If you get arrested in America, you're in jail now. Are there any programs for you to study, to get like a diploma, degree, whatever?
Yes. I think depending on where your incarceration is, then the level. Like, if you're going to be thrown up in a county jail, I don't think they've necessarily got a program for secondary education, for higher education. But the federal lockup might be. Like, there's no need to create a program for the county if you're only going to be in there for 6 or 9 months. But if you're going to a federal lockup where you're going to be there for the next 35 years, maybe they got something like that for those type of long-term people. But they do have everything, I'm sure, from GED, like a general education diploma, to a high school diploma where you can go back and earn your high school diploma, to college credits and earning a college degree. I think there are things like that, right down to learning to read.
Who pays for these programs?
I think it's probably a combination of tax dollars and private funding.
Okay.
Do I think that those tax dollars should necessarily go to that? Maybe. Maybe less dollars on cable television and more dollars on furthering education.
Don says meetings are for quitters.
This is true. But if you do what you're told, you'll be sober. So there's that. Like, I don't think there's anybody that goes through the steps of AA and works the steps continuously and still drinks. Like, you go to AA and you relapse, it's because you weren't working the steps, you weren't doing the things you needed to be doing. And any good sponsor will tell you that.
I can see AA and their steps. I'm struggling to understand the steps for like a sex addict. I don't think it's a great idea to have a bunch of people that are sex addicts.
I bet you they're almost identical. Like the steps for AA and NA for Narcotics Anonymous are almost identical, as I recall. Because so much of it, because so little of it actually addresses the action of the addiction. Like, if all you want to do is drink whiskey, and you're like, all right, I've got a bad whiskey problem, nothing in those 12 steps mentions whiskey at all. None of it will address your actual drinking whiskey. Even if that's the issue you got, that's not what it addresses. It addresses you, and it makes you face some shit. And not drinking is part of it. Learning to deal with life on life's terms is part of it. And learning to memorize and accurately use all these little quips and sayings that AA has is always part of it as well. But the 12 steps are so intense. I don't think people realize the intensity of a 12-step program until you have to go through it. And by that point, the intensity of the 12-step program is the least of your problems. But to actually do it is super fucking hard. Like, to the point that most people don't. Most people, like, even if you're an alcoholic, a lot of alcoholics will never want to face those demons in an attempt to not drink. They would much rather continue in their addiction than do the work and the uncomfortable process of dealing with whatever it is that's causing you to drink that way. I think it's a good idea for people in general. I think if you can work your way through a 12-step program, you don't even have to do the first 12.
So what happens when you complete the steps? You cured?
Well, no. So generally, most sponsors, and I think most people in general, it's just kind of common sense after you're in it for a little while. So once you're done with step number 12, the very next thing you do is step number 1. That's what comes after step 12 is step 1. And the cycle repeats. It is not uncommon for long-term members of AA to run through once a year, like, their list of personality defects, the list of people they've harmed, and to go through once a year and make amends to the people they've harmed throughout that year. Yeah, it's not like a 1 and done or 12 and done. The 12-step process, it's an introduction to a way of thinking and a way of living your life. And then once you practice it and you learn it and you can get it down and you can incorporate it into how you live your life, you realize that you have to practice in at least some aspect 12 steps every day. Some aspect of the 12 steps you have to practice every week, every month, every year. You may not have to run through and write down the shit and do a formal 12-step, here's what it is. Because maybe you just have to work on your step 3 today or your step 4 or whatever it is. But you're always going to be working the steps.
Well, how big is the problem for AA?
I'm sorry?
How big is the problem for AA? Like, how many people are having problems with their drink in, say, your state?
There's a lot. I'm not sure. Seems like it would be hard to get an exact number because everything's anonymous. Let's see. Maybe I could Google it.
So it is a big problem in America.
I mean, it depends on how you'd be wanting to define it. AA, I wouldn't consider to be the problem, or how many people are
like
in AA.
Being an alcoholic, I would assume you qualify as an alcoholic when it starts interfering with other parts of your life. It's not just about the drink anymore. You're skipping work, you're coming home late, you know, neglecting your family. I think that's when you probably qualify as an alcoholic, if you're doing all of those things for the sake of just going out there to drink.
It's also more than that. You can be a functional alcoholic. So you're able to get up and go to work every day, take care of your family, but you just got to be drunk to do it. And there are lots of people that can't do that, can't function and be an alcoholic. And they just...
If you can function as an alcoholic, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, usually. Because alcoholism is progressive disease, you won't be able to function forever. Because you're going to have to, based just on physiology, you're going to have to drink more and more and more. Because you build up that resistance to the alcohol, so to feel drunk the way you did last week, you're going to have to drink more this week. And maybe not quite that specific, but you get what I'm saying. So because it's progressive, if you're an alcoholic, the best way to get out of that alcoholism is to hit rock bottom, is for your life to get just as shitty as possible until you finally say, well, okay, all right, now this juice isn't worth a squeeze, and it's more important for me to not drink than it is for me to drink. Because you can go all the way to rock bottom, prioritizing being drunk until you get there. You're like, all right, well, that wasn't as good as I thought, and I'm not dead, so that's good. So maybe now I'll just try to not drink. And you go from rock bottom and you try to build yourself back up. When you're a functioning alcoholic, it's like a parachute to rock bottom. It takes you so long to do it because you can function. You don't have any real excuse, no real reason that you can tell yourself that you need to get sober because you're functioning.
What's it like getting drunk? Why would somebody be an alcoholic? Do you just feel good?
A little bit. There's a little bit of that involved. But that's usually at the beginning and is only like the beginning of getting drunk. I don't think there could be anything positive to be said about getting drunk.
Okay, not drunk then. When you take alcohol, why do people drink alcohol?
So if you can just drink alcohol, well, a number of reasons. One, they might like the taste. Like some people actually like the taste of alcohol. It's a great social lubricant. And as humans who are social creatures, it helps those that are awkward feel less awkward. I mean, it'll still be awkward, but you don't feel like you are. And it helps social situations to a point. It helps people navigate social situations. It lowers your inhibitions. It reduces your decision-making ability, where you're going to do things you wouldn't normally do. These are all some of the side effects of just drinking a little bit of alcohol.
The main things that you mentioned there have to do with being with other people. But there's people that sit at home and just drink by themselves.
Yes. You know what we call those people?
Alcoholics.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that definitely drink alone. And really, most of the time I drink alone. Last weekend, I went down to my father's house, and on my way there, I stopped off and bought a 12-pack of beer. And once I hit the dirt roads, I went in, I cracked one of those beers open. I drank it whilst cruising the dirt roads at 9 o'clock at night, because I knew there wouldn't be any other cars there, and there weren't any other cars there. And I drank it by myself. Now, when I left on Sunday, there was 11 beers in the fridge that I forgot down at my dad's house. But, I mean, I probably should have just bought a 6-pack and only had 5 beers left at my dad's house. But I've gotten to the point where I can buy a 12-pack and only drink one. There was a time in my life that I used to have one of those neoprene bottle koozies. You could put a bottle of beer in, and it's supposed to keep it colder longer. It's got a little zipper on the side with a little key ring. And that key ring was the perfect size for my wedding ring. And I remember as a teenager, I would just wear one of those koozies like a wedding ring, and I always had a beer in it. Like, I could never not drink. I spent pretty well from 14 to 34 drunk. And maybe not quite that old, but into my 30s, I'd say. I was still battling addictions.
Drunk as in it became a problem?
Oh, yeah. But it was an addiction problem. It didn't really matter what it was, per se. And I think a lot of it was the conflict that comes with making pot illegal. And my brain just knowing that it was such the least of the issues, that everything else, whether it was legal or illegal, was causing much more of an issue than the pot was. But to make the ex-wife happy, I wasn't smoking the pot, or I was smoking the pot behind her back. But what I could do was stop off and drink beer, because that was legal. And I spent a lot of time drunk, like getting drunk on the way to work. I was drunk in high school, got busted for getting drunk in high school. There's not too many ways that alcohol hasn't negatively affected my life.
And then you went for the meetings.
Eventually. We've only got about 2 minutes left of the show. But yeah, I tried AA. Wasn't a big fan of actually attending AA. It was a lot of work. The ex-wife, she was at AA too. She was a lot more involved, but she was also a whore, so there's that. What I found that helped get me sober was a program run through the church. Its name is escaping me right now. I have not even thought about this program in a while. I could probably come up with it if I had more time, but I've only got about 60 seconds. But it was a biblical based, and it wasn't 12 steps. I think it was 9 total. They combined some of the 12 steps that seemed a bit redundant that you didn't necessarily need to include. But I'm going to... I'll never come up with it. Make sure you guys come back on Monday. Come back next week, and I will have remembered. I'll look it up, and I'll find it, and I'll let you know what the biblically based, church-based recovery program. Celebrate Recovery. I knew I'd get it. Celebrate Recovery was the name of the program that I went to, and that was the one that I'd used when I actually finally got sober. And a lot of it, I think, was just obsession. I had obsessive thoughts. I was always thinking about drinking or thinking about using, and I had elevated the substance into such a high priority in my life that everything else needed to revolve around that particular substance. And once I learned to break the obsessive thoughts about that substance, whether it's alcohol or Coke or even now cigarettes and coffee, once I can break the obsessive thought patterns, not abusing it becomes pretty easy. But that's what it takes, is breaking those obsessive thought patterns. So we're going to give you guys the weekend to break your obsessive thought patterns from the IRONWORX. Make sure you guys tune in. Do it. Tune in on Monday for more of the IRONWORX. Hope you guys have a happy Friday. Thanks, Nuka, for hanging out with me. I really thought for sure Zach would be here. So I appreciate you coming here and making me talk.
Anytime, brother.
And you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week. Until then, be good, be well, do good, do it well. Always remember that we love you. Bye-bye.